Hello, hello, and welcome everyone to Overtime. My name is Nicholas Lamar Soutter. With me today, instead of our regular co-host Ethan, we have Nate the lawyer. Nate, how are you?
What's going on? I'm doing well. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. And Nate, I'm going to say this honestly. It has been far too long since you have graced. I was going to say these great halls, but since you've been on the show. Um,
Yeah, it has been far too long, man. How's everything been going? How you been doing?
Been doing good. Been doing good. So changes have been made. We got, we finally got the interface for Overtime, which we didn't have when you were here. We got Ethan as a co-host, Courtney, who's co-hosting the main show, and everything seems to be going, pretty good. How have you been? Now you've got your channel, you've got your lamp, which apparently has been getting into it with my suit. This is what I've heard. This is so. Tell us about your channel and what you've been doing.
It's funny. For most of you don't know, my name is Nate the lawyer, and I'm an attorney here in the state of New York. And it's so interesting. I was a professor at a law school. My exact title was a law school lecturer, and I was doing that for a couple of years. And recently, I've just been doing private practice, and my YouTube channel is starting to become something. So I'm thinking about focusing more on my channel. Now, on my channel, obviously, I just cover legal topics. So if you like to see interesting legal topics, I cover topics from the hood. I cover topics from politics. So that's really what my channel is about. For instance, I have like I was telling you earlier, I have an upcoming case that I'm following where in Louisiana, there was a black man who was just convicted of attempting to steal hedge clippers, and his prison sentence was life without the possibility of parole for attempting to steal hedge clippers. So we're going to go in. So I'm doing videos about that type. The law. How is that possible here in the United States? Stealing hedge clippers, a life sentence. We're going to figure that out. So.
Well, actually, that reminds me. So I was in California for a while. I lived in California. They had the three strikes law, and there was a guy who. The two cases I remember, one was stealing cabbage. Actually stole a head of cabbage. That was a life in prison for stealing cabbage because that was his third strike. Another one was a guy, he had, as a kid, 17 years old, he had, I forget what it was, he had stolen a car, no. He had egged a car. The car was a Ferrari, and the amount of damage done to the paint exceeded what you'd consider. So it was this huge, just because of the kind of car and the damage done to the paint, it ended up being just a huge amount of money. That the prosecutor was up for re-election, really wanted to get as many cases as he could, so tried him as an adult. Guy gets a felony. He is on probation. Ended up turns 18, goes to a bar, gets into a bar fight. Bar fight had nothing to do with him, but it's a violation of probation. So he ends up with a second strike because that's another felony. And then I forget what was the third one that was just it was a little thing, and he ended up with 3 strikes. Basically, had done nothing. So it's
Now, do you know the history of these? They call them habitual offender laws. Do you know the history of them?
No.
Just a quick bite. What happens is that right after Reconstruction, after the Civil War, slavery was illegal, right? You couldn't have slaves, but you still had plantations. And me having a huge plantation, but no one to work the fields was nothing, right? So back then in the South, you needed people to work the fields, and they couldn't pay them. Because if you pay them now, the price of goods skyrockets, right? You're paying people to actually work the fields versus free labor.
Yeah.
So what they did at first, they instituted what they called the Black Codes. And the Black Codes were crimes against African Americans in the South. So you had, for instance, a list of them would be, if a black person was unemployed, you can get arrested and serve 10 years in prison for being unemployed. If the police came to your house and found out that your house was dirty or in what they call disrepute, then you could serve a 5-year prison sentence for having a dirty house. So these type of things. And then you have what they call pig laws, where, African Americans back then were poverty, right? So they would steal like a chicken. So if you stole a chicken, you can get 10 years in prison for stealing a chicken.
Yep.
But now the piece of it is that since you could still enslave people who were criminals, and this is where the criminalization of the black community comes in. What they did is that they said, well, if we just, if we can find ways to make people kind of criminals for their whole life, then we can re-enslave them for their whole lives. So then you started getting laws like this. You started getting laws like three-strike rules and these predicate felony rules where if you commit 3 offenses, you can be put in jail for life. But it wouldn't be jail, though. You'd be put onto a plantation to work for the rest of your life for free. And it would be, it's interesting because most people don't know this, but in one of the largest penitentiary in Louisiana, guess where it was built on?
Oh, I want to say a plantation. Yeah, okay.
It's a plantation. It's a plantation that was changed into a prison because for that. So these laws have this history of being put into place to re-enslave people. Now, currently, you may say, well, that was 30. Actually, we're talking about just making in the 50s and 60s, but the vestiges of those laws are still here with us, and that's what's happening in Louisiana right now. They still have these laws, these offender laws that force these lifetime sentences on people for these minor crimes. Again, this guy just stole hedges, and he attempted. He didn't even steal them, and he's got a life sentence. And the issue that comes across is that these laws haven't changed. So, for instance, in Louisiana, these predicate laws, these 3-strike laws, 80% of the people who have been incarcerated for life under these laws are African American, even though African Americans only account for 30% of the population in Louisiana. So this is what we're talking about: institutional racism and structural racism in the system that has to be changed. I know that was a huge, long colloquy, so I apologize for that. But no one ever says I don't talk about.
Well, that's why you're a really good fit for the show. I have to say, there's a huge. I've been known to opine for a little. You should see my DMs. At any rate,
oh my God.
All right. Well, so we've got about 10 minutes left. So let's talk about what's going on here, because this is either extraordinarily remarkable or absolutely nothing. So thanks for joining us.
That is so true.
What we've got is, and I want to do just a little bit of a history, and then sort of talk about the details that we know. We know Trump has ostensibly been in a lot of trouble for a lot of things: the emoluments clause, paying off Stormy Daniels, tax issues, and possibly money laundering. And it's been so long since we've actually covered that and had to go back to that. I found myself having to refresh myself on because this used to be a really huge deal, and then Trump University and all of these things. So So this has been in the purview of New York, and I want to ask you a few questions about that. You're the perfect person to have on right now, because New York is where you were a prosecutor in New York, you were a cop in New York, so and you're still practicing there. So I want to talk about some of that. I'm just giving the 5,000-foot view before we get into it. What we know is this. He's had a lot of issues with Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank was recently fined, I think, $600 million for money laundering. And he has loans through this bank that look a lot like money laundering. When you're trying to launder money, this is how you do it. So there's concerns that he's money laundering. The district attorney in New York has gotten a hold of his taxes now. It was a fight, but he has their taxes, and he has all of the records ostensibly from Deutsche Bank, which you got earlier. And he has now said that at 11:30 he has a major national announcement. Now,
just correction for the woke crowd. The attorney general's a she. So you said he.
My bad. And I don't remember why. I sort of remember it being a he, but thank you for our entire crowd. Don't want to get that wrong. So now we have someone in the live chat who's saying, "Hey, look, it's probably nothing big. The DA is just making a big deal, wants to get press." I've seen DAs do that. That's not my experience of sort of how the New York crowd handles it. And as I recall, she's from the Southern District, which is usually considered in New York to be much more aggressive and take this kind of thing very seriously. Now, the other thing I want to bring it up before we just start talking, Kushner is involved in all of this too. And so there's a couple of questions I want to ask, which is, one, can he be impeached? Two, how might, what is it? Oh, dear Lord, the ability to pardon apply? We've talked in the past about how we believe that Robert Mueller was working closely with states' attorneys general in order to make sure that they had copies of his data so that if nothing happened, they could continue. So how might if anything is involved, would people be able to be pardoned or not? I think I maybe said impeached earlier. I meant pardoning powers. And what are we looking at for either Kushner or Trump? I have a tendency to think that the way they usually do these things is from the bottom up. So I think they're going to, if it's going to be anything today, I would assume it's going to be Kushner, who I think has some exposure. But that's the overall view. We know they're going to say something. It's possible it's going to be. I dropped my pen. It could be. I mean, it may be Stormy Daniels. That money, money ostensibly was a campaign contribution. Believe it or not, so there's an issue.
Well, let me. Well, first, let me break down a couple of things again.
Please.
So first, my prediction, my prediction of today.
Yes.
I don't think the Attorney General will go around crying wolf if she didn't have something good, and the reason why is because then you can't cry wolf again, right? You can't do things. People just won't believe you. So I think she may have something good. I think what she has, again, if they got the records, is the simplest type of fraud. When you fill out for a bank statement, a mortgage, and like Trump was doing for all these loans, you have to tell the bank how much you're worth, right? What's the value of your property? And Trump is someone who overestimates the value. Like he'll say, my company's worth $20 billion. And it's fine to say that to the cameras, but to put that in bank documents to secure a loan, you're violating both federal and state laws, right? That's what you're doing. You're violating both federal and state laws.
Yep.
So if Trump, if they have Trump's tax returns, and they see that he's told the bank, what they do is they'll take the bank's application and his tax returns and says, well, you lied to the bank, you overvalued your property based on these tax returns, then you have fraud. But now that goes into your second question. Let's say they have, can he be impeached? Well, yes, he can be impeached for any crimes. But again, that's a political question based on the House and Senate. So, I don't think they'll impeach him again so close to election.
Let me interrupt. Actually, what I meant to say was, can he be indicted? My brain just, so can a sitting president be indicted by because there's been a lot of back and forth about that, and I don't know, but I apologize for interrupting because you were like midstream.
Now on the federal level, no. He cannot be indicted. He cannot be the sitting president cannot be indicted because essentially what will happen is that'll be the president indicting himself. The president is actually a chief law enforcement officer. The president's the one who all the indictments are coming from the president. So it'll be the president indicting himself. That's why the Justice Department came out with that legal memo that says you can't indict a sitting president, right? Because he would effectively be indicting himself. But there's also a question on whether he can be indicted at the state level, because you have a type of sovereign immunity as president. So as president, he has like a type of sovereign immunity while he holds the position of president. So there may be a reason why he can't be indicted even under state charges, but that only extends to while he's in office. As soon as he's out of office, then all bets are off. So whether the state can indict him is iffy, but I know for a fact the federal government cannot indict. And then the last issue with, let's say if they do have him on fraud, they do have this evidence. The last piece is that about pardons, whether pardons will apply or not. Now, for federal crimes, of course, the president can be pardoned, and the president can pardon. Technically, some scholars believe the president can even pardon himself. But for state crimes, the president can't pardon for state crimes. And the reason why is because the state governments and the federal governments are what they call separate sovereigns. So the state sovereignty, the state government are sovereign just like the federal government is sovereign. So if the state charges you under state law and prosecute you and convicts you under state law, then the only person that can pardon you is the governor of that state. So he'd be looking at Andrew Cuomo to pardon him or any of his cronies. That's why.
Yeah.
But that's why Robert Mueller, like when you're talking about Robert Mueller, that's why Robert Mueller was giving this information of these frauds and things to the states, because the states the president and his cronies aren't really immune from state prosecutions, and they can just be just as bad as the federal ones too. So that's why Robert Mueller was given to the states, just in case the president wanted to pardon these people on the federal level, they would still could be held liable under state law. And that's kind of what you're seeing here with New York State. New York State is saying, well, we don't want the federal stuff. We just want to deal with this based on state law.
All right, so
I know that was another long one. So
no, it's perfect. It's perfect. That's so we got. We're a little short on time, and my apologies. So that's why we wanted to start early, so that people have this kind of background. Somebody had said that they're a sovereign citizen. Nate did a great video on what's his name, declared himself a sovereign citizen. Hovind. Now go to Nate's channel. The link is in the description. Go to Nate's channel. Hovind is a sovereign citizen. I debated Hovind. Was actually a lot of fun. I actually genuinely enjoyed it. But
he's a nice guy, right? Hovind's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. No matter what anybody says.
Well, he's a nice guy, and he's a little out there, but that's what makes it interesting to have a good discussion with him. It's fresh.
You're so right. No, but I feel bad because when I've spoken to Kit Hovind, he is the nicest man you'll ever meet. He's crazy. He's insane. Right? I'm not saying that.
Yes. But, okay. So the caveat.
The three people who I've met who I feel are insane. Their arguments are insane, but they are the nicest people to have a drink with to meet. Kit Hovind, Matt Slick, and Saiten Bruggencate. They're extremely nice guys. Bad on their arguments, bad in debates. Extremely nice people.
Again, Matt Slick, is he Matt Slick? What's the name that? Because I think I debated him as well. But Saiten and I don't get along. We'll leave it at that.
Again, it's personal experience. We got 1 minute. So prediction. My prediction is fraud. My prediction is fraud. What is it? My prediction is fraud for Trump overvaluing his assets based on the tax returns. That's what I think this might be. Not money laundering. Go ahead. What is yours?
No, I think you're right. I was going to go for money laundering on either Kushner or Trump. Probably Kushner. He's part of the organization. I think they'd go after Kushner first. Having said that, you're right. You know what? My instincts are always to, of course, they're going to go after the big stuff first, and that's what you see in TV. And that's not the reality. The reality is they start with the. And you're right. The thing that we know they have for a fact is the taxes. So I think you're absolutely right. I think you called it. You just sort of went by what you see. Which we all know that there's money laundering. We all know that but right now, the thing we just saw, they got the taxes, they have the bank records, so they would know by this point whether there's fraud or not. I think you got it. So I'm going to change it. I've got it on the Discord. As long as nobody screenshotted our Discord, I'm going to go back and I'm going to retroactively just Kushner on. I'm going to change fraud or money laundering to fraud. I think you got it. So what we're going to do is we're going to play the audio. And I lost your audio. I think you're muted. Usually that's my tradition.
No, I'm sorry. No, it's my thing. But you could be right. I want to make sure. You could be right. We're just reading tea leaves here. I could be totally wrong. So I accept. You could be right. I don't think you should turn over your prediction.
No, I think no. Yeah, I think you just went over. Look. You and I have talked law a lot, actually. And I'd love to chat more. And in fact, we used to talk every other Saturday or something. We'd just shoot the shit about the law. So, and I do the TV thing, which is I go for and you're just like, no, here's the numbers, here's what you see. So this is the typical, and usually it's, so I think you got it. I mean, the other thing is, of course, it could just be, again, I wanted to announce that I'm retiring. I mean, that's. It could be. We don't know. The reality is we don't know. Everybody's speculating based on what we've seen in the last week, really.
Yeah, the immediacy of it. So we'll see. Has it started yet?
It hasn't started yet, at least not that I've seen it, unless I need to do a refresh.
No. It just I don't know. Yeah, it hasn't started yet.
Okay,
it's going to be interesting because they got to do the walk-in. If they got something good, they're going to walk in. My name is Letitia James, and I want to thank the people standing here next to me. This is Captain America, Thor. These are the people who made this thing possible. So
and you're sitting there going I don't give a fuck. Just tell me what's this like. And then I'd like to thank my elementary school teacher who taught me the value of tenacity.
Oh my God! Oh yes, this is gonna be crazy. They're not going to stop. So let's see.
All right, so
right now, so I've convinced you.
No, I think you're right. I think it's going to be fraud. I don't think it's going to be on Trump. I think it's going to be on Kushner, um, just because I think it's well. When I thought no, because they have his taxes, so it's got to be Trump. It wouldn't be Kushner if because they went after. I don't. So I think you're right. I think it's going to be fraud on Trump. So my call was money laundering on Kushner, and I'm going to stick with that just because I think we need a difference of opinion. And I think by now me broadcasting live my view and then changing it and saying no, I've always held this. I don't think it's going to work. I think people know how to use the record button, so I'm probably screwed on that one. Yeah, so now I'm getting all sorts of breaking news alerts, so I'm going to check. But House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi says we're going to have a deal. I think she's full of it. I don't think we're getting a deal, but all right. So
what do you think about this whole deal thing? Like, for me, I am conservative in the sense of I think the government spends too much money, right? I think we have too much debt.
Yes.
I'm all for that, but we're in the middle of a pandemic. And the Democrats, they throw $3 trillion around like I'm throwing around a buck 50, right? $3 trillion, right? It's like
Well, I'm going to
no,
disagree. It was the Democrats, but go you do you.
No, but let's keep it real. If you heard $1 trillion maybe like a week ago, we would all be shocked.
Did you just wait? Did you just say let's keep it real and then start talking about $1 trillion? We're gonna keep it real over trillions of dollars. Okay, let's keep it real and talk trillions of dollars. So you were saying,
but before this, $1 trillion was like a lot of money. Like we were like, oh damn, they're about to pass a trillion. Now the Democrats came out and was like, yo, let's just throw $3 trillion out there and see what falls out. So I do understand the Republicans like hold the phone, right? You're talking about spending trillions of dollars here, but then the $600 though. Give the people the money. You're in the middle of the pandemic. 30 million people out of work. It's not like those. I understand. Some people will be incentivized not to go back to work, right?
Yes.
Obviously, you're making more staying home than doing that. But you also have to think there are so many people out there who can't go back to work. People who work in movie theaters, people who work in bars, people who work in restaurants. Those people can't go back to work. So by saying the $600 is an incentive for them not to go back to work, it's ridiculous because they can't go back to work. You know what I'm saying? So that's the part that doesn't make any sense. Just to only cap them at $200 now, when you know there's no job for them to go back to, the argument just doesn't move me in that sense. I don't know. What do you think about it?
I think that we should have done a UBI. I think everything I've seen on what a UBI to give everybody $1,000 a month for just do it temporary. I know UBIs are okay, fine. We moved the Overton window where we can at least discuss UBI. Give every American $1,000 a month until the bulk of this crisis is over, which we're looking at probably beginning of next year, just when there's probably a vaccine that's out and then places can start to reopen. Now the cost of that is $5 trillion, I think. No, actually, I think it was 3. But you end up being able to cut off at least 2/3 of that because that's just including the cost. That's not what happens when they spend that money and it gets back into the economy. Because one of the things that's going to happen right now is the people who have no money can't pay for rent. The people who own these properties are now also going to go bankrupt because they can't get their money from their tenants. They can't pay all the groceries, so everybody starts to go bankrupt. If you artificially put money into the system, bad way to keep going forward. Unless we can talk UBI about a sustainable. That's all later. Right now, put money into the bottom. Yeah.
But are you concerned about inflation then? Because then you may have that inflation problem. You know, adding $3 trillion in cash to the economy. Now the amount, a dollar.
As long as you don't print the money. As long as you don't print the money, the amount of money is going to be the same, and so inflation shouldn't be a problem because you're not actually creating new money. So as long as you avoid doing that, if you create the new money, inflation is going to be a problem. If you don't print it, and if you get it back through taxes, keep the taxes. Just keep everything else the same. So you end up that money comes back in taxes. That money just goes straight into the economy. What's happening right now is most of that money is going to Wall Street, and I think that's why you don't see any of the numbers reflected in Wall Street. What scares the living daylights out of me is at some point we can't keep propping up Wall Street anymore. Wall Street tanks, and that's when people start to realize there's a problem. But people haven't seen the problem. People don't believe it yet. And I think that's because even on Main Street, they may hate Wall Street. They may say Wall Street is the cause of all our problems. But when Wall Street's doing well, they're not scared. When Wall Street tanks, when the people who run the system and the money, all that tanks, that's when Main Street freaks out. The reason people aren't wearing masks, the reason people aren't taking this seriously is because The Wall Street numbers are still good, but that's artificial. The money is pumping into Wall Street. I'd much rather it pumping into just the average American citizen, letting it go up. This is triage. The country is, I think, in extraordinarily big trouble, and I don't think we've been taking it as seriously as we should. I wonder why.
I agree.
Okay.
I think. Oh, is it on? Oh no, I think the Wall Street.
Yeah.
I think the problem. Go ahead. What you're saying?
No, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it start. I've got another window that's got it
it's
open.
not starting. It's not starting.
Yeah, okay.
It hasn't started. But what I'm saying is that I agree. I think the Trump tax cuts that move the business tax.
Let me interrupt.
30%.
Is this just going to be? No, it's not going to be audio. Okay, it's going to be video too, because I hear audio, but it's just some idiot commentator. What kind of commentators talk before one of these things start? I have no idea. Please continue. I think it may have started, but let me double check. Please finish your sentence and let me check on whether it started. Oh, finish your sentence. Yeah.
No, what I was going to say is that I think Wall Street just hasn't come up with the reality that things are just going to get worse before they get better. You know, this is just unsustainable. And I think Wall Street is hoping that the Trump tax cuts took us from 30% business tax to a 20% business tax, which is billions of dollars, back into the hands of corporations. But they're going to have to get through this pandemic. They're going to have to raise that tax revenue. You can't keep those tax cuts and let it be viable. So, but we'll see. All right, it's on. We're up.
It's on, but I don't seem to have audio yet. So let me give that a shot. We could also, Tony, if you could drop a link to this in the live chat, so that if we can't, okay, you know what? Yeah, I see the issue here. So let me just.
Hey, I'll drop the link. I got it. Oh no.
Thank you. Still a little new to this particular system, so if everyone could give me 1 second. Oh, okay.
To award contracts to the financial gain of close associates and family, and appeared to dole out lucrative no-show contracts to former employees in order to buy their silence and continued loyalty. This lawsuit specifically charges the NRA as a whole, in addition to 4 individual defendants. 1, the first individual, longtime Executive Vice President Wayne LaPierre, who has been the face of the NRA for decades. 2, former Treasurer and Chief Financial Officer Wilson Woody Phillips. 3, former Chief of Staff and the Executive Director of Operations, Joshua Powell. And 4, Corporate Secretary and General Counsel, John Fraser. These individuals in the NRA are charged with failing to manage the NRA's funds and failing to follow numerous state and federal laws, which contributed to the loss of more than $64 million in just 3 years. Since its founding in 1871, the NRA has been a registered not-for-profit charitable corporation in the state of New York. And these organizations are required by law to register and file annual financial reports with the Office of the New York State Attorney General, and the assets of such an organization are legally required to be used in a way that serves the interest of NRA membership and that advance the organization's charitable mission. However, as today's complaints lays out, we found that the NRA instead fostered a culture of non-compliance and disregard for internal controls that led to the waste and loss of millions in assets and contributed to the NRA's current deteriorated financial state. Not only were the NRA's internal policies repeatedly not followed, but they were blatantly ignored by senior leaders. The NRA's board's audit committee was negligent in its duty to ensure appropriate, competent, and judicious stewardship of assets by NRA leadership. Specifically, the audit committee failed to assure standard fiscal controls.
Didn't she say this is
Failed
about
to
Trump? Why is she talking
respond
about the NRA?
adequately to whistleblowers.
She actually didn't say what it was about. She just said it was a
Affirmatively
national
took steps
announcement.
to conceal
Trump was
the
was
nature
the
and
general
scope
assumption. In fact, we had
whistleblower concerns
someone at
from
NBC
external auditors,
had said that they
and they failed to
suspected. They
review
didn't
potential
cite a source. They said that they
conflicts of
suspected it was
interest.
an actual
Employees.
indictment on Trump, which seemed to me far fetched. But
In our lawsuit,
we
we
had assumed
outlined
it was Trump.
dozens of examples of these failures.
Yeah, this
Many
is
of
a
which
lawsuit for a
were
non-profit.
led and
I've done a couple
Yeah.
of these, so I can
by
talk
the
about
four
this. Yeah.
individual
All right. Well,
defendants
let's.
named
Okay, so we can
in this lawsuit
put this
No,
down for.
but
failed to fulfill
But
their
there may be
fiduciary
two
duty.
because sometimes
Right.
they may
To the
announce
NRA.
two at the same time, so we can just listen to it.
They use millions upon
Well, we've had a
millions.
If that's
few good.
okay.
I'd
from
rather,
the
but
NRA
I
for
figured if you wanted to move
personal
on, we can do.
including
But yeah, let's listen to
lavish
this. We've
trips
had a
for
few good
themselves and
questions
their
too that
families.
were.
Private jets.
But this also sort of
expensive
explains. Cause I'm trying to figure out no other
and other
organizations,
private travel.
CNN, ABC, NBC, none of them seem to be
LaPierre,
carrying it. So
Woody Phillips, Joshua
Wayne LaPierre is an
Powell,
interesting one, but we can
and
discuss
John
that.
Frazier instituted a culture of self-dealing, mismanagement, and negligent oversight at the NRA that was illegal, oppressive, and fraudulent. They overrode and they evaded internal controls to allow themselves, their families, and favored board members, employees, and vendors to benefit through reimbursed expenses, related party transactions, excess compensation, side deals, and waste of charitable assets without regard to the NRA's best interest. The central figure behind this scheme was none other than Mr. Wayne LaPierre, the national face of the NRA, who was entrusted with running its day-to-day operations. Mr. LaPierre exploited the organization for his and his family's financial benefit and the benefit of a close circle of NRA staff, board members, and vendors. Specifically, Mr. LaPierre spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of the NRA's charitable assets for personal private plane trips for himself and his family, including extended family when he was not present. He visited the Bahamas by private air charter at least 8 times in an approximate 3-year period with his family at a cost of more than $500,000 to the NRA. He traveled
Letitia
on
James sounds like she's talking about some
hunting
BS right now.
safaris in Africa
Yeah, I mean it's
at the expense of
and
an NRA vendor.
whether or not this is big
He
depends on a
spent
whole
millions of
bunch of
dollars
stuff.
on unwanted
Wayne LaPierre
travel
is a
consultants
huge
for
name.
decades, including
I
for the
dared
booking
him
of
to sue me
luxury
once.
black car
Probably
service.
not the smartest
In the
thing to
past
do,
2
especially when he
years
got 2
alone,
kids.
Mr.
And he
LaPierre
sued
spent
people,
more
but I
than
basically accused him of negligent homicide.
$3.6 million
You're muted.
on these travel agent services.
No, it says we
He
hear
secured
you,
a
not her.
post-employment contract
But I hear her,
for
though.
himself with the NRA without
I hear
board
her. I
approval,
can check that in a second.
currently valued at more than
Has nobody heard her since this
$17
No,
million.
started?
no, I hear it. No,
He
I
allotted
hear her. She's
several
on the line.
million
Yeah.
dollars annually in NRA funds for private security costs for himself and his family without sufficient oversight on their use. He received
she gamed us.
more than
I think she gamed us.
$1.2
I think so
million
too,
in
quite frankly.
reimbursement in just a 4-year period for expenditures that included gifts for favored friends and vendors,
No, what
travel
she's doing now
expenses
is
for himself and his family,
she's poisoning the jury
and
pool.
membership
That's what she's
fees
doing.
at golf
Oh.
clubs, hotels,
Hmm.
and other member clubs. He even secured lucrative consulting contracts for ex-employees and board members worth millions of dollars. Yet often it resulted in little, if any, actual work. In addition to grossly misusing these funds for
All right,
personal
let's.
use,
You know what I
Mr.
think I'm going to
LaPierre
do? I
created
think I'm
an
going to
illegal-
close off the audio
Yeah, and
on
then-
this. Yeah, and you and I we
Yeah.
can leave it running. And if somebody in the live chat says that she's suddenly saying something, I did. So yeah, I did a Trump rant, which I'm sure you remember, and I went off on Trump and used a whole bunch of swear words, and it was lots of fun. And then I also did a gun rant. and in it, I basically said he's guilty of negligent homicide, and if he's not, he can sue me for saying that. And he says he's sued people before, but basically, if I understand this correctly, what they're saying is, and I dropped a link to that in case anybody's interested, but basically what she's saying, if I understand this correctly, is that he misused funds. And he is a national name. He's a very big guy. Most people don't know who he is or haven't heard of him, but he was the president of the NRA. He retired, and now he's still with the NRA, but I forget what his official title is. But he took over for Charlton Heston, who most people have heard of, and he's one of sort of the top 3 or 4, and their lawyer is just a big dog lawyer, which you would imagine for the NRA. They've caused a lot of trouble in sort of legal circles. They've had a tremendous amount of success. So anybody who's willing to or thinks they can get away with a lawsuit is I think, impressive. I don't know how far they can get, but so, what are your thoughts? So you said, and I want to talk about, you said poisoning the jury pool, but I want to get to that in a minute. So what are your thoughts about this?
Well, I've dealt with a couple of these lawsuits against non-for-profits in New York State. Now, it's interesting because the way the law is written here in the state of New York, all non-for-profits are under the purview of the state's attorney general's office. And the state's attorney general's office, they can investigate not-for-profits and they can bring lawsuits if they feel they violated state law. And that's what it seems like she's doing here. So, for instance, in cases that I've had against other not-for-profits, what I would do is I would sue the not-for-profit, but then I would also add the state attorney general's office to the lawsuit. And the last time I did this, Andrew Cuomo was the attorney general. So essentially I was suing the not-for-profit and Andrew Cuomo. And what happens is that that's what she's doing now. This is not, I don't think this is a criminal matter in a sense of they're going to be arrested. This is a civil matter in which she's saying the NRA is a New York State not-for-profit, and as a New York State not-for-profit, they're violating New York law by doing A, B, C, and D. And it's interesting because nothing that she said here is really shocking, because this is, like mega churches do the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
That's sort of like what I was,
picking. So I don't think this is anything special. You know what I mean? That type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I wish her luck. I hope she nails them. And I think they are big. But, I mean, I think you're right. I think that a lot of companies do this. A lot of non-for-profits do this. This isn't. So now, would that, just out of curiosity, would that make this, and this may just be my ignorance on maybe in civil, this isn't a thing, but would that be selective prosecution then? Could that be a thing here? Or
well, not the reason why it wouldn't be selective prosecution is there's a fine line between prosecutorial discretion and selective prosecution. Prosecutorial discretion, for those of you who don't know, the government is given a lot of leeway who and who not to prosecute, because there's what they call the scarcity of resources, right? There's but so many prosecutors, and we have so much money to actually put into prosecution. So the prosecutor usually
you know what? I'm going to pause you. I'm going to pause you. Hold on. It looks like she's listing right now causes of action. So I just want to let's pause and listen to that for a second, and then I want to let you finish here.
To dissolve the NRA in its entirety.
Did I just hear that?
To require Mr. LaPierre,
rewind it.
Mr.
Rewind
Phillips,
it.
I
Mr. Powell, and Mr.
might be able to.
Frazier
you can't pull it back?
Yeah, no, I think I can. I can.
Funds they unlawfully profited in salaries they earned while employees and pay penalties.
I think the version I'm on is not going to let me do
Mr.
this.
LaPierre and Mr. Frazier from the NRA's leadership, and to ensure none of the four individual defendants can ever again serve on the board of a charity in New York State.
That's what happened to Trump and Trump University
that
and
Mr. Phillips
so.
and Mr. Powell.
We're going to have to. We should do a show on Trump University. Did you ever read the manual for that?
It's
Did you
clear
read their
that the
guidebook?
NRA has been failing to carry out.
Oh dear
its
Lord!
mission for many
Oh dear Lord! And
Instead,
I'm talking to people like it was
operated as a
legit. Yeah,
proving
read
ground
it. It's
for
how to
greed,
steal grandma's. It was literally. This is how you steal money from grandma. If grandma objects and calls the
brazen
cops,
illegality.
this is what you do.
In this state, we have a set of laws that every individual and entity must be held accountable to, regardless of who you are, regardless of your power, size, influence, wealth, or station in life. One set of laws.
This is
Today,
the claw clutching.
we send a strong and loud message.
To the jury pool. I mean, that's a really good point. And there's been some questions I want to keep up with in the live chat, but it
One of
sounds
the
to me
most
like
powerful organizations
she
in
said
this country.
she's going to attempt to dissolve the NRA
Again, I'd
based on
like
what 4
to
people
thank
did.
the
I
chief
don't know
of
how
the
you can do
Charities
that.
Bureau, Jim Sheehan,
The Charities Bureau.
co-chief
Yep.
of the Enforcement Section, Emily Stern, and they led with a dedicated and experienced and professional
If she's
team of
really going to try
attorneys
to
who I'm very
dissolve the
proud to be
NRA,
associated with.
then yes, this was absolutely
Also a
worth
team
it.
of accountants
Whoa.
and legal assistants, and they include Assistant Attorney General and Special Counsel of the Litigation Bureau,
So this is the whole.
Monica
Here's everybody
O'Connell.
who was involved.
Assistant
Yeah,
Attorney
let's
General
let's
William
let's mute this. So I cut you off. What were you saying? And I do apologize. And now the mouse clicks are working. Great.
I totally forgot. But it's interesting because in all of these actions that the state attorney general generally brings against non-for-profits, I like to call them bad non-for-profits, those are usually like the standard things you ask for. The people who are on the board can never serve on the board of any non-for-profit ever again. That's what happened at Trump's not-for-profit, right? Like none of his children can ever serve on another profit, and they had to pay restitution. That's another thing you ask for, and you'll ask for them to pay back the money to the not-for-profit. So there's nothing here that seems ordinary. The one thing that is out of the ordinary is that they actually found out all these things. So, but now what's interestingly enough is that she has Trump's financials from Deutsche Bank. Everybody thought this was about that. This wasn't about, like, how did her getting the financials from Deutsche Bank lead to this?
Well, obviously, I mean, they've got multiple cases they're working on now. The sort of social media had nothing to do. We're watching social media, and everybody says, "Okay, this has to be about Trump." My only concern was if you're going to really go after Trump, make the arrests first, and then say would be my guess. But I was with everybody else. I figured this had to be about Trump. So I think that this is just happens to be on. I think it's what we kind of got. She knew we'd be thinking about Trump, and so she wanted to get the audience for this. Although if you're gonna, and I want to get clarification if somebody can rewind and listen to it. Actually, I've got another copy up here, so I can probably go back and listen. So I may do that, but I want to really get clarity on whether or not she was saying she wants to try to disband the NRA. I don't know if you can do that from New York. That's a good question. We've had some questions about NRA and why the CDC can't. Well, it depends. That's a whole other. But
but it all depends. If they are New York State not for profit, then absolutely she could. She could if she can prove the fraud and whatever else she's trying to prove. Yeah, if they're not a New York State not for profit, I think the best that you can do is stop them from operating in New York State. But from right now, from what she's saying, the NRA is a registered not-for-profit in New York State, which I don't understand. Why would they be registered in New York? Why not go out to get registered in Texas, a friendly state, right? Less taxes. It's got to have friendlier laws. I don't understand why they would be a New York State not-for-profit. It just doesn't make sense to me. You know what I mean? Just the political aspect of New York.
Yeah. So what I'm doing is I've got the I've gone back 4 minutes on it, and I'm listening to it, and she's saying that LaPierre, who was president at the time, was A, getting extra bonuses that he didn't deserve, B, he was bullying members off the board, people who said that he wasn't using the finances correctly and that he might be doing something inappropriate. He was, getting them off the, but I still can't. Okay, so she's got 18 causes of action, violating multiple laws. Yeah. All right.
I don't know, and the fact that it's not criminal also, it seems a lot. Don't get me wrong. It seems a lot of pearl clutching. It seems a lot of rah rah rah. But I got to get into it a little bit deeper because it just seems like regular shit to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Okay. What she's actually saying though now is, whoa. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I don't think I can pipe this in, but I can probably repeat it as I'm hearing it. So here's what she says. They made side agreement payments, and then hold on, because she listed a couple of these. They sounded serious. So let me see if I can. Years of fraud and misconduct, false filings with the state of New York, and they are seeking an order to dissolve the NRA in its entirety. As a result of a number of years of false filings Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah, so apparently they've done false filings, and LaPierre signed off on these filings that hid that he was getting extra money. So that I think is national news. She is. It looks like she is going to go for dissolving the NRA, which would be staggering. Now, apparently, right now she is clarifying civil versus criminal aspects. So it may be. Do you want to listen back in, or do you want to opine on this? What would
Yes.
you, okay.
Let's listen to what she's talking about.
All right.
To step in and dissolve this corporation, just as we foundation.
We'll take one more question in the room, and then we're going to go to virtual.
Do you have any concerns for your own safety, considering the NRA is such a powerful organisation and does have so much support now that you're sort of leading this? Do you have any concerns?
None whatsoever.
Okay, we're going to go to virtual calls. My colleague Kelly will introduce the callers on the phone.
We're up the volume on this a bit.
Good afternoon. For the reporters who have joined us virtually for today's press conference, please use the raise hand function at the bottom of your screen if you wish to ask a question. Our first question today will come from Danny Hakim from the New York Times.
Yeah, hi. Hello, Attorney General.
Hi, Danny.
Do you anticipate seeking or making a criminal referral in this matter, and would you rule out doing so in the future if you're not planning to do so now?
This is an ongoing first of all, thank you for the question. It's an ongoing investigation, and if we uncover any criminal activity, we will refer it to the Manhattan District Attorney. But at this point in time, we're moving forward again in civil enforcement.
Our next question will come from Tara Lenning of the Washington Post.
Attorney General James, this is Carol Lennig. Thanks for your news conference. I have a question about your findings regarding LaPierre's ability to avoid reporting expenses as personal income on his personal income taxes. Have you or will you refer that to the IRS? And do you believe he evaded personal income taxes in a pattern over several years?
So I will not, again, come to a conclusion on whether or not he violated the Internal Revenue Code. We are in the midst of submitting our complaint to the IRS, and we will contact the IRS accordingly.
Thank you. Our next question will come from Stephen Gandel from CBS.
Hi, thanks very much for taking my question. So many people today were speculating that the conference was going to be related to President Donald Trump. Can you give us an update on any investigations you have of President Trump or the Trump Organization? The Manhattan DA has reportedly received documents from Deutsche Bank. You have also subpoenaed Deutsche Bank. Have they complied with your subpoena? And if so, can you give us a sense of what they've given you?
Thank you for that question, which is not the subject of today's press conference, and will not comment on any other investigation. Thank you.
All right, so this is big. I have had 12 breaking news alerts in the last 60 seconds on her. So for those of you just joining us, how do you pronounce the first name?
Hi, Attorney General. The Trump Foundation lawsuit,
Letitia
predated
New York Attorney General Letitia James just announced.
Are you open to any sort of settlement talks with the NRA
investigating the top four members of the NRA? She is seeking to dissolve the organization in its entirety.
Thank you for the question, and it is not my habit to negotiate any resolution in public. We have filed our complaint today. There are 18 causes of action. They include but are not limited to the dissolution of the NRA in its entirety.
Our next question will come from Mark Marmont from the Wall Street Journal.
Sorry, I was muted. Attorney General, thank you so much for the time.
Sure.
I was wondering if the, since you're seeking to dissolve this organization, is it possible that that this could lead to some kind of a tit for tat? In other words, conservative attorney generals and other states might take some kind of an action like this? Or is it possible that the NRA could say, okay, if you want to dissolve us, then we'll just move to Wyoming or Oklahoma, and
That's what I would do.
now we're done with New York. In other words, you no
Offshore,
longer have power over this organization.
I'm not going to speculate
NRA.
as to the future plans of the NRA. The NRA, again, was formed under the not-for-profit laws in the state of New York, and as a result, the Office of Attorney General has supervisory jurisdiction over all not-for-profits, including but not limited to the NRA.
She's right. It was a mistake. This was a strategic error by the NRA.
What was the
Next
error?
question will come from Eric Larson of Bloomberg.
No, it's okay. Let's listen to the questions. Well, we'll talk about it later.
Yes, hello. The allegations that you've laid out here suggest that the NRA donors and members here were really essentially victimized, allegedly, by these actions. And is it not further victimizing them by forcing their organization to close, an organization that's pretty popular across the whole country? Is that necessarily fair to these victims here?
The issue is the following. A number of donors have contributed to the NRA because they believe in their mission. At this point in time, the NRA right now is financially is in a deficit, and as a result of 4 individual defendants who have basically looted its assets. And so one would think that the donors would like for an organization to have some governance, some standards of behavior, and that they would recognize their fiduciary duty to a not-for-profit and/or its mission, as opposed to looting looting assets and using it for their own personal benefit and their family.
All right, I'm going to mute that for just 1 second because people haven't been able to hear over the crosstalk. I apologize. So for the people just joining us, it looks like Letitia James, New York Attorney General, has announced that she's going after the top 4 members of the NRA and is going to attempt to dissolve the NRA as a national organization, which would have a dramatic effect on politics, and assuming they don't relocate, which I think Nate will cover. So let's bring it back. Just wanted to bring people up. Yeah, Nate, were you going to?
Yeah, no, I was saying perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what's coming.
Thank you. Our next person will be Henry Rosoff from Pix 11.
Hello, Attorney General. Thank you for taking my question. I was just wondering if you could walk us through the next couple of immediate steps with the understanding that this type of legal action can take years. What will we see in the coming weeks and months?
So I'm confident that there will be a response that will be filed by the NRA. We will go through a series of motions. There will be discovery. It's a normal course of action in all of our cases. And so we will continue to keep you abreast of the status of this litigation.
Our next question will be from Victoria Tempest from the New York City Quotes Media.
Hi, Attorney General James. Thanks for taking my question. Many have criticized the settlement your office brokered with the Weinstein Company, maintaining that the sum would have been greater if Weinstein personally had to pay into it. At any point during the settlement process, did you consider or advocate for Harvey Weinstein paying into the settlement? And if not, why not?
So that's not the subject of the press conference here today. We will be giving you an update in regards to the Weinstein negotiations. And I thank you for the question.
She don't want to answer the hard questions.
We have time for 2 more questions. Our next question will be from Paul DeLienzo from WBAI.
Okay.
If anybody wants to ask anything interesting, please have a seat.
Attorney General, my question is, will you attempt to freeze the assets of the targets of this investigation or of the NRA, or in any way try and prevent them from doing business during this investigation?
That is one of the remedies that we are seeking in our pleadings, and so we look forward to again doing investigation to determine if there are any hidden assets and whether or not they can be frozen for the purposes of benefiting those donors who have given to the NRA over the years for its intended mission.
And so my last question today will be from Sonia Moog from the CNN.
Hi, Attorney General. Thanks so much for taking my question. It's actually a 2-parter. One, it seems like there's a lot of allegations of potential tax fraud here. Has this been reported to the IRS? And two, why take the measure to dissolve the entire organization instead of just removing these members? Can you speak to why that was necessary in this case?
We thank you for those questions that were previously asked and answered, but we will answer them again. We will be forwarding the complaint to the IRS, and we'll be in touch with the IRS in regards to any violations of the Internal Revenue Code. And two, because of the numerous complaints and based upon the facts and the application of law, we concluded that the best way to address this matter was to seek resolution before a New York State Supreme Court judge, and that is what we are seeking. Again, given the breadth and the depth of the corruption, the illegality, and the brazen attempts to basically evade the law. I thank you all for coming.
She's pearl clutching.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. All right. Well, so just to recap for people who've just joined us, and so that everybody understands, we knew that today we were going to get a, quote, national announcement by Letitia James, the New York Attorney General. The assumption was because the Attorney General's office just got a good deal of information from the financial information from Deutsche Bank, and now has Donald Trump's records, that it had something to do with that. It turns out she is suing the top 4 members of the NRA for 18 separate issues. Some of them, it sounds like, quite serious. We didn't catch all of them while they were playing. But she is also now seeking to dissolve the NRA as an organization, and it sounds like making a smart move and attempting to freeze their assets, because it's one of the most powerful organizations in the United States. And I think they're going to notice. Somebody said, do you think they'll counterfile? I was like, I think it's already been done. I think within, my guess is somebody's driving down there right now writing it.
Get it down.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
So it's funny because the news is just like, I got 12 news alerts in 1 minute. I was just like, okay. So this is actually I think pretty big. There may be ways around it or not. So please continue.
Yes.
Nate.
No, I think this is big, but I like to separate facts from fiction. All right. So what are the facts here?
Okay. Sorry. We've just learned Nate apparently is a fan of facts. So thank you very much for joining us. This is a fiction-only channel, Nate. This is drama. This is just drama. We'll let you finish out this episode. But clearly, you do not know our audience. You do not know our brand. I appreciate your help. I think there's been a miscommunication. We'll be closing out your window.
Yes.
But please finish. Okay. You like to separate facts from fiction.
So what do I mean by that? Well, here, this is not, she's making it seem like a criminal case, but it is not. This is a civil case, right? This is a civil case by a regulator who's regulated the market. Similar to, you remember with YouTube and COPPA, when the FTC went after YouTube for violating COPPA? This is essentially the same thing that's happening here, where the New York Attorney General is going after the NRA for violating not-for-profit laws. And generally, again, one of my first cases that I've ever dealt with was a non-for-profit. It's very similar fashion. We had a whole bunch of counts, and we asked the court to dissolve the not-for-profit. So this is not unusual. But the issue that I think is going to confuse people is that the Attorney General in New York doesn't really handle criminal cases. So if this was a criminal case, I think she even said it. She has to actually send a referral to the Manhattan DA's office. And the Manhattan DA's office would then investigate this in the criminal arena. She can only do this in the civil arena. So that's kind of where we're at now. I think, to be honest with you, this was a lot of pearl clutching. This was a lot of we got them. This was a lot of the NRA's bad and we finally got them. But I don't think I think that's about as much as you're going to get here. You know what I'm saying? They're going to fight. It's going to take years to get through it unless there's some type of settlement. I also think the NRA is not stupid. And like that reporter asked, well, why don't they just pack up, move, let you dissolve this, and then go to another state? Which they can obviously do. You know, they can obviously just pack up and move. And I'm surprised the NRA, being such a smart business, would have done that already, right? Because if they move out of New York, then New York doesn't have any jurisdiction over the NRA and can't bring these type of lawsuits. So you're in there's been mistakes, I think, on the NRA side, just strategically. We're in a state where they're looking to burn us. But then I also think that this is not. It seems big whenever you say she's suing to disband the NRA, but in reality, this isn't really that big of a deal. You know what I mean? That's just my honest. That's my honest opinion at this point in time.
All right, so it looks like. I mean, it sounds great. It sounds like, hey, so we got them and so on and so forth. But what you're saying is, A, I think it's going to take a long time for this to go all the way through. B, even if New York could succeed, they could relocate and just keep doing business. Just start have a new business. It's a new business, but it's the NRA. It starts exactly where they left off, somewhere else. Okay, so it looks like now. How about the top 4 people in the NRA who have been named? Do you think they're in any trouble? Obviously, they could be replaced by the organization, but are they as it sounds like the NRA itself as an organization maybe doesn't have much to worry about here, but do those 4 have anything to worry about? Do you think they're in a little more trouble or about the same?
Well, you have multiple things going on here. If you have tax implications of it, because again, people, when you give money to not-for-profits, some of those not-for-profits are taxed, or you get a tax deduction, right? I give $100 to a not-for-profit, I can deduct that off my taxes as a charitable donation. That's why if you heard earlier, she introduced the boss to the Charities Bureau, because not-for-profits are charities. So if you give money to a not-for-profit, then you can, so then you have that aspect of it. Then you also have the aspect of the income aspect of it. A lot of times in businesses, you'll see like CEOs. It happened at there's a CUNY school here. I think it's City College of New York. And what happens is that the college is, in all instances, a not-for-profit. But the president was doing things like getting her house cleaned and, paying her rent and those type of things. So that money that was supposed to be spent for the not-for-profit she was really spending it for herself. And I think that's what they're saying here in this complaint for the NRA, is that the NRA was just a proxy for these top 4 people. So can they be in trouble? Yes. If that money would be considered income to those 4 people versus money donated to the NRA, and they didn't pay taxes on that income, now you have things like tax evasion. Now you have things like fraud. That could be in the criminal arena. But I would also say this. If this was enough to be criminal, we wouldn't be looking at Letitia James. We'd be looking at the Manhattan DA filing charges. Right. That's what we're talking about here. And also, I think people need to understand this, which this is why a lot of my friends say I'm a conservative. But the standard here is so different, right? The standard here in a criminal trial, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. They don't have that. In a civil trial, it's the preponderance of the evidence, a lower standard, which they think they have. So, again, this is a game changer, because I think a lot of people would think that if the NRA goes away, it's going to hurt the Second Amendment. No, the NRA is not going away. It's going to another state, and they're going to tell all those people on their mailing list, the new NRA is now in Texas. Donate to us here. So that's what you're going to have. Go ahead, Nick. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, please don't. Dude. You think I know what the fuck I'm talking about? Why do you think you're here, dude? I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna, it's like I could talk out my ass real good if people want to see that, and we get super chats for that on occasion. But trust me, but
you got a super chat now.
I did, and so it was Angry Roach, $5. Hey, Nick and Nate, nice to see you guys streaming together. Thank you. I think this is our 3rd stream. I always enjoy it. I'll be honest. I had a bit of an issue with the lamp, but we sorted things out. We're good. We're doing much better. We're doing better. I think it's a little iffy, but I think we'll work it out. Lamp turns out pretty cool. But, yep. So and we'll have him back. And we were talking about. Oh my God, there's so much we could cover. We do need to cover Trump's business, because that was insane. I haven't met many people who actually read the instruction manual for that and everything. We're going to have hopefully we can entice him to come back on. He's kind of slumming. I get that, but we certainly appreciate having him around.
It's been a while that I've read it, but I remember it's tragic. And Trump University was a farm. It was a farm to get money off people. I think everybody knows that, and so was the not-for-profit they had in New York State. But I think. Here with the NRA, I think this is honestly just a lot of claw clutching, a lot of we're in a liberal state and we're going to scare the NRA. But I think at the end of the day, NRA is not going. Yeah, the NRA is not going to go anywhere. You know what I'm saying? It's just not happening.
All right. Well, so I think. Oh, let's see. Is there anything else?
Oh, somebody asked me a question. Nate, the lawyer. There's been accusations that of the NRA making illegal campaign contributions to several candidates, including Trump. Could this be stopped? Step one, in the more complicated case. What you're talking about now, campaign finance violations. And campaign finance violations, that's what the prosecutor in the Manhattan DA's office is looking at now. That's the whole Stormy Daniels thing. So remember just a little while ago when the Supreme Court said that the Manhattan DA can get Trump's finances? Well, they're looking into Trump's finances based on campaign finance violations, but not federal, state campaign finance violations. So you're right. If they can find out that they're funneling campaign contributions to them illegally, you have then two issues. You have a state issue and a federal issue. But I don't think they have enough for that now. And the reason why I'm saying that is because this is a civil case. This is not a criminal. If they had that, we would be hearing from both the AG about the civil complaint, and we'd be hearing from the Manhattan DA's office about the criminal aspect of it. We don't have that. So, again, this is my reading of the tea leaves as I see them now.
All right. All right, excuse me. So, all right. So I think it sounded big. It certainly sounded big to me. I think Nate has brought up some very good points. So if you're watching the show right now and you have a moment, and if you've enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe. Also, we've dropped his channel in the live chat a couple of times, but you'll also see it in the description at the top. So do check out his channel. It's I'll be honest, like for almost every guest we have on, I was just like, oh, I love their content. It's great. They all do good stuff. I actually do watch his content, and I do comment on it. So I hope people will check it out. This is one of the few I actually do. Just don't tell the other guests. But I think I hope everyone will check that out. Thank you all. Thank you for the super chats. And was there anything else you wanted to say before we head out?
No, thanks for having me, and I can't wait to do this again. And thanks for listening to me ramble on for everybody in the live chat, and hope I can do it again.
Oh, our pleasure. Thank you all. And I did forget. So two things I did forget really quick. Tonight we're going to have on Ozzy to discuss Hume's problem of induction. That's going to be tonight, 8 p.m. That will be on in time. Yeah, I think that's going to be fun. That's going to be Ozzy, Courtney, and I, Hume's problem of induction. And then next week, Wednesday, August 19th, we are going to have on Christopher Mowdy to answer this question. I like this one. What is music? So I think those are going to be two good shows. So hope you guys will, like and subscribe. Make sure you can, if you can attend tonight, we'd love to see you. And otherwise, also make sure you hit out Nate's channel. Thank you all very much. Thank you for being patient. I think it was at least worth keeping an eye on. It was an interesting set of events, and we will see you guys soon.
Peace.